Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 8th grade concept of visualizing real numbers. This is standard 8.2a in the great state of Texas. We are using item number 1 of the 2023 released STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. All right, so we've got this Venn diagram here, and we've got real numbers on the outside, right? It's kind of hard to see, but you've got a little bit of real numbers right here, and then inside the real numbers are two different big chunks, right? You've got this big rational numbers and then irrational numbers, and there's nothing inside irrational numbers. Within the rational numbers, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? So let's define some of these. So natural numbers, okay, these are also called counting numbers. So when we teach kids to count, what do we teach them to count with? 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Okay, we start at positive 1, move forward. Whole numbers is its own separate set, and it only adds 0. So it's counting numbers plus 0. That's literally the whole difference. I'm not sure why it needs its own category, but that's fine. Okay, so we're still dealing with positive whole numbers here. So even though it just says whole numbers, right, we need to keep that positive symbol in mind. Now we've got integers, okay? We're still dealing with whole numbers, but now it can be positive and it can be negative, okay? So -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put the ellipses, the ... on either side, actually. All right, so now we're getting into integers, rational numbers. These aren't necessarily drawn to scale because this should be a huge box. This rational numbers includes anything, and you see that word ratio in rational. So anything that we can, display as ratio. So it could be that we have some decimals there, right? 4.5, because you can show that as 4 5/10. You can put that as an improper fraction if you need to. It could still be whole numbers if you want to. We can do percents in here, right? 37%. So the forms can really change and look at different things. But rational numbers are going to be, most of what we deal with are going to be rational numbers, right? Even like 1/3 fractions, put it in a ratio, you're good to go. And then real numbers just encompass both rational and irrational. And, irrational numbers, that's going to be, like square root of 2, pi, any numbers that you can't necessarily put into a ratio because it doesn't divide evenly. So now we know all that. We need to figure out square root of 169. Well, let's use our calculator here. All right, let it do the work for us. So let's see what it says. Negative, and then second square root of 169, -13. Now that might surprise you a little bit, but take a look. It's negative square root of 169. Treat these as two separate terms, okay? This negative is sitting on the outside. So we're just going to kind of deal with that later. Really, we're just dealing with the square root of 169. And 169 does not mean divide by 2. Okay, that's what that is doing. That's dividing by 2. That's ridiculous. It's what number times itself makes that number, okay? So it's and then we bring that negative back in. So it's the negative on the outside, so -13. And so that means it's either going to be, B or D, and it is an integer simply because it's negative. Since it's negative, we can't put it in the whole numbers. So the answer is going to be B.